Good morning, afternoon, or evening, wherever you're at, ladies and gents. I am Kurojiri, your resident tinkerer and Medarotter, and this is the Medarot News Network, bringing you all the latest developments and happenings with our favorite pet fighting robot series. Now this week, as we wrap up the tail end of the Medarot Navi anniversary event, that gave us both Zero Suicide, Navi Kamu, and a special surprise of Omega Stag KWG-15. It looks like we're going to be jumping right from one event right into another, as this week we actually jump back just a couple years back to celebrate some models that came back from the days of Medarot 3. With the addition of a brand new model from Mr. Tagro that has been long waited and confirmed for quite some time, as you see here, the legendary Vermilion Bird, and the new model, a Rainbow Dragon. That being said, though, we do have a pretty nice event incoming that I do feel is pretty user-friendly, especially to beginners and new players and rookies, but also to veterans alike. That being said, though, let's go ahead and jump right into what was announced for this week going forward, starting, of course, with the gacha banners, and we do have quite a number of them this week, if I'm being completely honest with you. Starting, of course, the lineup with the new models that are going on this week, we, of course, are seeing the long-awaited release of SZK-0 Sphinx, with the kits of Confusion, Double Fire, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Torturer. Now, for those that have played Medarot 3 or are familiar with it and know who Sphinx is, she also is capable of transforming into a more bird avian-like form. In this form, she exchanges her kit out ever so slightly for a kit of Repair Plant, Double Flame, Flight Legs, and also maintains the Torturer leg ability. Honestly, taking just a minute here to talk about Sphinx, I really don't see her as one that's going to be super popular, given that fire really isn't something you see often in competitive meta, if at all, primarily for the reason that DOTs are something that just people don't use a lot, because they don't do a lot of damage over time. Whereas Flame, on the other hand, you may or may not see depending on the situation, because that extra damage bonus does pay itself off if you do choose to use it. With the addition of Sphinx, we also have the new Wyvern type released by Mr. Tagro, WVN-001 Should Wyvern, with the kits of Suction, Hyper Beam, Hyper Missile, Flight Legs, and the leg ability of Bullet Rain. Now, honestly, this model is one that really caught my eye in a lot more ways than one. Not just is its design rather unconventional and very scattered technical, I guess you could call it, very fractal, very angular, but I also really like that this will be the first model we have in the game that actually has working, for lack of a better term anyway, fully working LED emissions in the game. And that's to say that unlike most models which will have an eye emission, maybe a glow or a gun emission if it's like a beam or a laser or something, Should Wyvern here in particular actually has a fully functioning rainbow emission across his entire body. Almost like a lot of gamer LED keyboards, if I'm being completely real with you, which only adds to its charm, and that's certainly not talking about its design and its kit either. A very aggressive long-range fighter, very stark contrast to the original Wyvern, which specializes in supporting his allies or getting up close and personal. But with the introduction of Sphinx and Should Wyvern, we do have the release of the final 4 of the Kings of their respective series and of the upgrade. To celebrate both of these two, we are also seeing the reruns of the original 3, both of the OGs and of their respective upgrades. This week we are seeing the reruns of BHM-01 Safo Behemoth with Buff Trap, Meteor, Wide Break, Tank Legs, and the leg ability of Haja. We also have GNB-0 Basalt, the OG, with Destroy, Double Guard 500, Biped Legs, and Hoplite, who is actually shaped up to be one of the big 3 in the game when it comes to defenders, and a model you really can't ever go wrong looking for if you need someone tanky on the team. We also have BYC-0 Thunder, another OG from the early days, with a kit of Slip, Double Wave, Biped Legs, and Captor. BTR-01 Decide Centaurus is one of the next upgrades, actually one of the first couple upgrades, number 2 if I recall correctly, that was released with a kit of Deathlock, Effect Clear, Hide Blow, multi-legs, and the leg ability of Dead or Alive. LWT-01 Mizrash Levia was the very first of the upgrades that we saw thus far of this series, with a kit of Perfect Guard, Double Hyper Freeze, Sea Legs, and the leg ability of Elusive. And then last but not least, the OG Sea Dragon type SRU-0 Longan, with a kit of First Aid, Double Field Repair, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Fairy Charge. Now, as I said, there are a pretty fair number of gacha banners going on this week, so it's going to be very similar to how it was the last few weeks with all the gacha banners we had with Navi's Zodiac series and the new models and the reruns, of course, on top of that. And with this week, it is going to be a pretty fair mix between a lot of meta-change models and non-meta-change models, so you really can't ever go wrong either way because all the models are very handy in one form or another. Mizrash in particular, you see his arms and head very, very commonly in competitive meta. Longan will be very handy for first aid and male healers, if anything. Basalt in particular for very tanky defense, and of course everyone else for mixed reasons as well. So, like I said, you really can't ever go wrong one way or another, and I'm going to leave it entirely up to you on which one you want to prioritize over the rest, because all of them have something they can offer to the team, whether they be as a new player and a rookie, or a seasoned vet looking to round out their libraries with some more parts across both genders. Now, with the introduction of Sphinx in particular, it would certainly not be a reveal and a celebration. Let me go back to this real quick. With the release of her Medarot Shuri, but with the introduction of her, we are also getting the rerun of the previous 3 of her party as well, of Kokuen, Hakuma, and Mizuchi. Now, just to go over them briefly, because it is kind of a very fair number of SR Medarotters coming this week. Kokuen starting from left to right, but reduces damage by 10% and buffs resist stats by 50% if using tank legs upon activation. Hakuma buffs success and crit rate by 50% and heat by 30% for 1 turn on activation. Shuri, the new one coming this week, will reduce anti-air damage by 60% and another 10% of CG when attacking, and this lasts for 3 turns or until attack. And then last but not least, Medarot Mizuchi will simply buff your evade relative to charge to make it more likely for you to dodge or graze incoming attacks. Now, very likely, Shuri will be joining the party as a permanent Medarotter, so no real rush to go after her, honestly. And it's going to be completely up to you if you want to go after her or not, or any of the other 3 of her team. Now, taking a brief step back for just a minute, because I did get ahead of myself with the fierce battles going on this week, it's going to be mostly a lot of anti-sea and anti-air terror this week, which is likely tying in the fact we have a lot of especially air types with gacha banners this week. Starting that lineup, we have KAP-01 Kappa Lord with Beam, Double Anti-Sea, Sea Legs, and the leg ability of Forester. BPB-00 Vorpal Rabbit with Triple Anti-Air, Biped Legs, and Bullet Rain right behind him. And last but not least, CRC-01 Shafu with Sword, Double Anti-Air, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Excel. Now, as mentioned, it's a lot of anti-air and some anti-sea terror this week, and at first glance it means it may not be something very good to have on hand. That's where I prove you wrong, my friend, because it never hurts to have an anti-air or sea on hand, even if raised just a 3-star for the sake of having it around. Because in early days of the game, it may not have been super handy at first, but once things started really kicking up with the competitive meta, especially with the introduction of competitive live PvP and online exhibition, that most certainly kicked itself up as something that never completes a Medarotter's library unless it's in it. That being said, though, for an MVP of the week, I still would honestly have to give it to Shafu specifically, given that it is melee anti-air, which you actually don't see super often at all. Most anti-air you see is primarily shooting-based, as evident by Vorpal Rabbit here. Another couple other examples include, say, Goth Bullets as another example of someone that can be earned quickly, but given that he's shooting-based, that kind of limits what you're able to do. Shafu, being melee-based, does give you just a little bit more variety in that respect, as someone that you can certainly hold on to. Same can be said for Kappa Lord and for Vorpal Rabbit. Never hurts to have him on hand, raise him to 3-star just in case But after that, I would definitely put some more effort into Shafu just so you have that advantage in the case shooting attacks are being prohibited in that particular fight. Now going back forward just a little bit, since I did cover Shuri with the official introduction of her Medarotter, we are also getting a specialized Medarot 3 based event to celebrate the release of Spink and Shud Wyvern and Shuri specifically, and to honor honor the game that they came from. With this event in particular, we can earn a lot more limited time rewards, such as GRW0 Riza, not to be confused with Riza 2, who was a previous event reward a couple of years ago. This is the original model as debuted in Medarot 3, whereas Riza 2 was simply a retool and a recolor of her that was introduced in Medarot 8. And she has a kit of Plant Up, Trap Clear, Plant Trap, Biped Legs, and the leg ability of Continuous P. With the addition of her, we can also earn WVN0 Ku Wyvern, the original Wyvern type, with a kit of Hyper Crept, Double Wave, Flight Legs, and the Rumbling leg ability. And he actually is a rerun event reward, much like the previous of the first three, such as Chi Behemoth and Ku Centaurus, to name a couple. This one will be a rerun, so if you are new to the game or just starting out, this will be a really good way to get a hold of that part and model to add to your library so you don't miss out on him another time. In addition to these two, we can also earn the Wind Medal with the Mastery in Shoot, Support, and Setup, with Leg Masteries in Multi, Tank, and Flight-based as an Assist-based medal. And lastly, we can also earn the R-rank version of Medarotter Shuri to add to our library as well. Now, with the event itself, it is going to be milestone-based this time around. No specialized boss events, no ticket-based, nothing special. Simply just use pure sets to maximize your part bonuses based on the models that give the best bonuses. And to name those specifically, Spink and Shud Wyvern will give you that highest bonus at 15% each. Each of the OG and the upgrades of the previous three will also give you a 10% bonus of each. 8% bonus for Riza, 7% for Ku Wyvern per part equipped, and the Fierce Battles at 6% each for parts equipped to maximize your bonuses. For the Medarotters, it can be the same case. Unlike previous events where Arase or Hisaki or maybe even Hikaru or Kirara could maybe sneak in there for a secret bonus, that's not going to be the case this time around. This time around for this event, it's going to be focusing exclusively on this quartet specifically. So Kokuen, Hakuma, Shuri, and Mizuchi specifically and exclusively will be the Medarotters to focus on if you want to maximize your bonuses even further. SR Shuri at 20%, 15% towards the other three SR Medarotters, and of course at 12 for rare rank, Shuri at 12%, the others at 10, and N rank 7% for Shuri, 5% for the other three. Again, if you do manage to collect them, pure sets this week as much as possible to maximize those bonuses across the board. Unless you end up going Basalt and Longon and maybe one attacker. In that case, I'd mix it up a little bit so you can kind of keep everything going. Now, something else that was actually tied in for a while, and we've actually had this going for some time on the official Twitter channel. It looks like Hotori's been kind of busy in her workshop restoring a mysterious model that's been going on through the use of Twitter contests over the last couple weeks. A couple weeks ago, we got to reveal the official leg parts of this mysterious model, as you see here, and this week we got revealed an arm at long last after completing the Twitter contest to show it off. And I was kind of curious exactly what it could be just based on the legs. It could honestly go any direction: a dragon, a wyvern, a serpent, whatever the case may be. It could go at least a million different directions. But then I took a look at the arm and I'm like, okay, you really can't hide it anymore from us, Imagineer. This is going to be an upgrade to Greek head, and you can't talk me out of it otherwise. And I would not be surprised if that is the case, given the pattern that we have thus far with the upgrades given of the previous four of his series that he's related to. So it only makes sense, I guess, in the long run. Nothing to be said on the kit or what exactly they bring to the table, but hopefully it might be something rather useful, because Greek Head is nice as a novelty, but by himself, he's just kind of there. And then after you collect him, he just very quietly sits in your library doing nothing. So more information to be said on this, and very likely upon full release, we'll get an official kit and a name as to what this mystery model will be. Now, starting of course with news from the community as a whole. For those that have been out of the loop on our Facebook channel or our Discord server, we are hosting another Ori Meta contest. Now, I understand it hasn't been too terribly long since the summer one, but I did promise that because that one did get a lot of interactivity or participation, primarily maybe due to bad timing is my guess. Like I said, I won't hold that against anyone, but this time around we will be focusing this one and holding it for the entire month and a half, starting from October 1st and ending on November 21st. And the reason I'm choosing these days specifically is because that next week, November 28th, is Medarot Day 2023, which is when I will reveal the winners of the contest and take that week between the 22nd and the 27th to officially announce a winner and decide on one and then reveal them on my channel. Same rules pretty much as previous contests can apply. There will be 3 winners and 2 honorable mentions with a prize pool starting at $50, of course relative to the amount of participants. The more participants there has, more than likely the prize pool will go up, but that is going to be entirely reliant on you guys and how much of a participation you give. Now, compared to last contest, however, there will be no motif prompt this time around. This means no holds barred. You can design literally whatever you please or whatever your hand draws to the paper when it comes to creating your designs. It's going to be completely on you. Whatever your theme you choose, just make sure you keep it clean. If anything, of course, standard rules apply. But there is something else I want to mention on this, and it wasn't mentioned a lot in previous contests, unless you were in our Discord server. I do have a link to a perchance generator that I put together with a friend of mine, my buddy Timothy, and it's a randomized Medarot kit generator. Simply put, you press a button to randomize it, and it'll spit out a result for you to help you get the creative juices flowing, basically with a list of every single skill and leg ability in the game. So, say for instance, it gives you a kit of, I'm just going to grab something randomly, Guard Boost, Cybercore, and Laser, with tank legs and a heavy limit of 3, leg ability of Haja. There you go. There's your kit. It gave you a theme of Machine, so all you have to do is kind of figure out how to put it together. So, I wouldn't say rely on this tool, but it is a good way to keep those creative juices flowing if you do need them. Of course, with that, we are not looking for art quality as a reminder and assurance, so if you feel that you shouldn't participate because you have bad art, I'm going to stop you right there, my guy, and tell you there is no such thing as bad art. Even in the words of Hora Marin himself in a recent interview I found from when he was first interviewed back in 2011, shortly after Medarot VS, he made them see you don't have to be super complex with your designs. He made them simple primarily for the reason of being animated, mostly for the anime's sake at that time, but it doesn't have to be something super complex. If it's a design you come up with, as long as it makes sense to you, and you put it to paper, there you go. There's your design, and no one else is allowed to judge. Other rules apply, of course. The entry must be drawn by the participant. You are not allowed to commission the art. So as much as I really want to support our local artists in the community with this, I'm afraid I would have to disqualify anything that was found to be commissioned by someone else. Not necessarily as a way to diss artists, but just so that we can show the creativity of the participants and the members themselves, without having to rely on other members, if that makes any sense. Of course, there will be a specialized channels as well in the server on top of this, and of course things that you need to look for in the entries in order to be classified as a submission. Lastly, one other thing to mention with this specifically is that there's also no limit to how many submissions one can enter. That means if you have 3 designs, if you have 1 design, if you have 10 designs, doesn't matter, enter them all. Completely up to you. But just bear in mind that if one of your designs is chosen as a finalist, the others that you submitted will be disqualified and not eligible for further placing. So just bear that in mind just for the sake of keeping things going. Once more as a reminder, this contest will begin on October 1st, 10/1/23, and end on November 21st, 11/21/23, with the winners being announced officially on Medarot Day 2023 on 11/28. In other news from the Medarot community as a whole, we are still always looking for translators to assist us with any translation efforts or endeavors. Right now, Medarot 3 is the big one that we're pushing for to kind of wrap that one up and finish it out, but it's mostly just a lot of text that needs translated before it can be injected back in the game. Medarot 4 is still in early stages, so too early to really tell where that one's going, but if you are knowledgeable in coding or cleaning or Japanese and have some time in your hands, definitely reach out to me. Feel free to join our Discord community, ask around. We'll get you in touch with the right people to fill you in on what has been done and what still needs done up to this point. Now, with weekly art highlights here on the MNN. I always love this segment when it comes to looking for art for my weekly videos, because honestly, there's just too much art to pick from, and some weeks it makes it really hard to pick just two specifically. And I could honestly make a whole channel or video dedicated to art that I find really neat. But this one here by Twitter user Tagro Chang, the Mr. Tagro, the one that was responsible for Shud Wyvern's design, as well as a lot of other designs of more modern Medarots, such as Dureza Diechi, Mizrash Levia, Sappho Behemoth, Decisive Paras, as you see here. He was also responsible for a lot of designs from the days of Medarot 5, and a lot of earlier designs on top of that. So he's definitely been in the business for a while, and you will not be sorry adding Mr. Tagro to your feeds to keep more Medarot art in the know. You can also see this one here by Twitter user Renew Blaze, who actually is a relatively new friend of mine I met recently, with this piece here of Kreutz Bison. They were looking for an art challenge. I tossed in Kreutz Bison as a possibility to say, why not? And surprisingly, they actually got this one done pretty quick, and it looks really, really good for just a quick sketch on top of that. Wonderful work to you as well, and if you are looking for Medarot designs in your feeds, look no further than my channel or the Medarot community as a whole. You have an absolute mother load of stuff to practice with. But with all that being said, I do believe that covers everything for this week's episode, so as always, I do appreciate you all for stopping by, just as you always do. If you'd like to know more, you can follow us below on Facebook at the Medarot News Network page, which just recently breached over 2,100 members, which I'm honestly really, really proud of. I never actually thought it would make it that far with our Facebook community and my page as well. So thank you so much for supporting me on there, and I will continue to do so to bring Medarot news to the West, just as you guys continue to support and encourage me to do so. You can also join our Discord community in the link provided and in the comments below, and this will keep an even closer ear to the ground on the action. Any new merchandise, my weekly episodes, game updates, fan art, anything new that has to do with Medarot, the Discord server is the first place you're going to hear it before it goes anywhere else. And the same goes for our Ori Meta contest, as we will only be hosting the contest there, and exclusively there, to keep the entries all in one place. You can also reach out to me personally on Twitter at Isagamikura, so if you have any questions or feedback or comments, or would just love to stop in and say hello, I leave my DMs open for that very reason. So don't be a stranger, stop on in and say hello, and I'll get to you when I can. In addition to this, if you are a streamer, VTuber, or YouTuber and would love to stop in or collaborate, whether that means having you here with me on my channel as a co-host, or me stopping in on yours for a friendly chat or a friendly game, I would absolutely love to coordinate with you. So reach out to me in those DMs and we can most certainly make something happen in the future and coordinate some schedules. Lastly, do give these wonderful friends in the Medarotter community as well. Twitter user Tayo at Tayo1, who known throughout the Medarot community, was known for their wonderful work at not only a 3D printed scale beast match they've been working on, but also a fully functioning, wired, and controllable one no less. So I've been following his work very, very closely, and it's absolutely impressive the amount of time and effort they put into that project. And if you want to keep up to date on that and see just how it's developing and going, definitely give Tayo a follow on Twitter as well. And of course, another new friend of mine at Joshuaka123, I do hope I did pronounce that correctly, my friend, who, much like my other friends in the mix, Moen, CHSci, and Medarotter Lux, like to keep an ear to the ground and stay in the know on anything to do with Medarot, such as Medarot S, or anything Medarot in general. This is going to be another dear friend of mine that you can generally never go wrong with adding to your feeds to stay in the know when you can't see my stuff, or when I'm in the middle of recording it and need just a little bit of a teaser. But with all that being said, as always, I do appreciate you all for stopping by, just as you always do. And until next time, this is your host of the Medarot News Network, Kura Isagami, signing out.